It started with a text. Not a fight, not a slow decline in affection, not even one of those dramatic, teary confessions you see in movies. Just a single message on my phone, lighting up the screen while I was sitting at my desk, sipping on cold coffee, oblivious to the fact that my entire life was about to fall apart. "We need to talk when you get home." That was it. At first, I thought maybe she wanted to discuss something mundane. Bills, a home repair, maybe even a family event coming up. But something in my gut twisted the moment I read it. Something about those words, so short, so final, made the air in my office feel heavier. I spent the rest of the workday in a fog. Every email, every meeting blurred together. My mind kept circling back to that message. Was she upset? Had I done something wrong? I ran through every conversation we had had that week, every moment we had spent together. Nothing stood out. But when I pulled into the driveway that evening, I knew. Colette was sitting on the porch, her suitcase beside her, hands folded neatly in her lap. She was not crying. She was not panicking. She looked calm. Too calm. I stepped out of the car, my pulse hammering against my ribs. "What is going on?" She exhaled, slow and steady, like she had rehearsed this moment. "I am leaving, Eli." The way she said it, so casual, like she was announcing the weather, made my stomach drop. "Leaving," I repeated, as if saying the word out loud would make it make sense. "For a trip? A break? What are you talking about?" Her fingers tightened around the handle of her suitcase. "No, Eli. I am leaving you." The world tilted. The air rushed from my lungs. I took a step forward, but she did not move. She just sat there, looking up at me with tired eyes, like she had already made peace with this, like I was the last one to get the memo. "You are joking." It came out as a whisper. "I am not." I blinked, waiting for her to say something, anything that would make this make sense. But she did not. "Colette?" I swallowed hard, my throat burning. "We were married." She gave a small nod. "I know. Then why?" "I am just not happy, Eli." The words sliced through me. Not happy. The woman I had built a life with, the woman I had loved with everything I had, the woman who had stood beside me on our wedding day promising forever, was not happy. I felt sick, like I was standing in someone else's body, watching my own life unravel from a distance. "This does not make sense," I croaked. "We were fine. We just went out last weekend. You kissed me this morning before I left for work. How does this just—" I gestured at her suitcase, at the distance between us. "Happen?" She sighed, her fingers drumming lightly against her knee. "It has been happening for a while. I did not know how to tell you." "You did not know how to tell me until today?" My voice cracked. She looked away, and that is when I knew. There was someone else. I did not even have to ask. The guilt was there, buried beneath her calm expression, hiding in the way she would not meet my eyes. My stomach twisted. "Who is he? Colette?" Colette's lips parted, but she hesitated. That was all the confirmation I needed. My hands clenched into fists at my sides, not out of anger, but out of sheer desperation to hold on to something, anything, because I was falling. My whole world was crumbling beneath me, and I had no idea how to stop it. "How long?" I whispered. She swallowed, still refusing to look at me. I felt my breath hitch. "How long?" "A few months." A sharp, bitter laugh escaped me before I could stop it. "A few months," I repeated. "So what?" All this time, while we were sitting across from each other at dinner, while we were watching TV together, sleeping in the same bed, I let out a shaky breath. "You were with him?" Her silence told me everything I needed to know. I should have been angry, furious. I should have yelled, screamed, demanded answers, but all I felt was empty. "I did not want to hurt you," she finally said. I stared at her, hollowed out. "Then you should not have married me." Something flickered across her face. Pain, maybe regret. I did not know, and honestly, I did not care, because whatever we had, whatever I thought we had, was gone. And I was the only one left standing in the wreckage. That night felt like the longest of my life. The moment Colette walked out the door, suitcase rolling behind her, I stood frozen in the same spot for what felt like hours. My ears rang with the echo of her words. "I am just not happy, Eli," over and over until they no longer sounded real. How could someone say something like that so easily? How could she dismantle everything we had built with a few sentences and a packed bag? I do not remember how I made it to the couch, but at some point, I sat down, staring at the empty space where she used to be. The silence was deafening. No sound of her in the kitchen humming while she made tea. No sound of her walking around in socks. The faint shuffle of fabric against the floor. No notifications from her phone, lighting up on the counter. Nothing. Just me. The dim glow of the lamp, and the overwhelming realization that the life I knew had just ended in a single evening. I wanted to call someone, my brother maybe, or my best friend. But what would I even say? "Hey, so my wife just left me for another guy. Did not see it coming. Any advice?" I could already hear their pity, their awkward reassurances that it will get better, that she was not worth it anyway. But none of that would help, because right now all I felt was the crushing weight of betrayal pressing down on my chest. At some point, exhaustion won. I must have fallen asleep on the couch, because when I woke up, the sun was streaming through the blinds, stabbing my eyes like tiny knives. My neck ached from the awkward angle. My clothes were wrinkled, and for a brief, blissful moment, I forgot what had happened. Then, I turned my head, expecting to see Colette's shoes by the door. They were not there, and just like that, reality crashed back down. I sat up slowly, my body sluggish and heavy. The house smelled different, or maybe it was just in my head, but without her perfume lingering in the air, without the faint scent of her morning coffee, everything felt lifeless. The first thing I did was check my phone. A stupid habit. Maybe she had texted. Maybe she had realized she made a mistake. Maybe she wanted to talk. But my notifications were empty. No messages, no missed calls, nothing. I clenched my jaw and tossed the phone onto the table. I should have been angry. I wanted to be angry, but all I felt was this hollow ache deep in my chest, like something had been ripped out and left gaping open. I kept replaying last night in my head, searching for signs I had missed. Had she been pulling away for months? Had I just been too blind to see it? I dragged myself to the bathroom and turned on the faucet, splashing cold water on my face. When I looked up at the mirror, I barely recognized the man staring back at me. Tired eyes, stubble shadowing my jaw. A man who had just lost everything and had no idea what to do next. I walked back into the bedroom, our bedroom. The sheets on her side were still slightly wrinkled from where she had slept the night before. I hated that my first instinct was to reach out and smooth them down, as if pretending everything was normal would somehow make it so. I should pack her things, throw them in a box, make it easier on myself. But the idea of touching her stuff, of physically moving her out of my life, made my stomach churn. Instead, I grabbed my keys and walked out. I did not know where I was going, just that I could not be there. The air outside was crisp, the early morning chill biting against my skin. I got in the car, hands gripping the wheel, and just drove. No destination in mind, just miles of road stretching ahead of me, empty and uncertain, much like my future. Somewhere along the way, I pulled into a diner. It was one of those old-school places with faded booths and a waitress who looked like she had been there since the place opened. The smell of fresh coffee hit me the moment I walked in, but it did not bring me any comfort. I slid into a booth, rubbing my hands over my face. "Rough morning?" she asked, eyeing me with a knowing look. I let out a dry chuckle. "Something like that." She nodded like she had seen it all before. "Coffee, please." She poured me a cup, the steam curling up into the air, but I barely touched it. My mind was elsewhere. I kept looking around, half expecting Colette to walk in and sit across from me like she always used to. God, was this going to be my life now, seeing her ghost everywhere I went? I pulled my phone out and stared at the empty screen. No messages, no calls. And that is when it really hit me. She was not coming back. This was not a break. This was not some dramatic argument where she would cool off and return with an apology. She had made her decision, and that was just a memory she had already started moving on from. But I was not ready to move on. Not yet, because there was still something nagging at me, a question I could not shake. If she had been planning to leave for months, why? Why now? Why so suddenly? And more importantly, what was she hiding? I spent hours at that diner, staring at my untouched coffee, replaying everything in my mind. The way Colette had sat there on the porch, suitcase beside her, looking more relieved than guilty. The way she avoided my eyes when I asked who he was. Because I knew there was a he. There always is. No one just walks out of a marriage like that unless they already have a safety net waiting for them. But as much as my gut screamed at me that she had been planning this for months, there was something else. Something that did not add up. If she had been slowly pulling away, why had everything still seemed fine up until the moment she left? Sure, maybe I had been blind to the little details, but I was not an idiot. If she had been emotionally detaching from me for months, I would have felt it. I would have sensed it in the way she kissed me, the way she spoke to me, the way she hesitated before answering simple questions. But there was none of that. It was as if one day she woke up and decided she did not love me anymore. And that was not normal. I drummed my fingers against the table, lost in thought. The waitress passed by a few times, offering a refill, but I barely acknowledged her. My head was somewhere else entirely. I needed answers. I left the diner, the bell jingling overhead as I stepped outside. The crisp morning air had turned warmer, the sun stretching long shadows across the parking lot. I leaned against my car, debating my next move. I could call her, ask for a real explanation, but I already knew how that would go. She would keep her voice calm, maybe even sympathetic, and feed me the same tired lines. It is not you, it is me. I just fell out of love. You deserve better. The same recycled script people use when they do not want to admit the truth. No, I needed something else. Something tangible. And then it hit me. Her laptop. I knew she had not taken it with her. It was still sitting in our office, right where she always left it. Colette was not the type to clear her history or cover her tracks. She had never needed to before. If she had been talking to someone, if there was another man in the picture, her messages, her emails, something would be there. I hesitated for only a moment before getting back in the car and driving home. Walking into the house felt different, like stepping into the ruins of something that used to be whole. I half expected to hear her voice, to see her walking out of the kitchen with a cup of tea, flashing me that tired smile she always had in the mornings. But of course, she was not there. I made my way to the small office at the end of the hall, my stomach twisting. The laptop was where I left it. I sat down, fingers hovering over the keyboard, suddenly hesitating. Did I really want to do this? Did I need to do this? Yes. I opened the screen. Her password popped up. For a second, panic shot through me. What if she had changed it? But when I typed in the one she had used for years, the screen unlocked. And then I saw it. Emails. So many emails. Not just from one man, but two. My heart pounded in my chest as I clicked the first one. The most recent. You sure he will not find out? You left so fast. I thought you would want to ease him into it. And then her response. He will not. Eli is not the type to go looking for answers. He will just accept it and move on. My throat went dry. Move on. She thought I would just accept this like some clueless idiot who would not ask questions. I clicked on another message. This one was older, from months ago. I hate lying to him, she had written, but I cannot just leave without a plan. And his response, then do not feel bad. He will be fine. Guys like him always land on their feet. Guys like me? Who the hell did she think she was? Who the hell did he think he was? I scrolled faster, my heart pounding in my ears. The further I went back, the more it became clear this was not just some spur-of-the-moment decision. She had been orchestrating this for months, planning it down to the smallest detail, making sure she had a place to stay, a job lined up, a whole new life waiting for her the second she walked out of mine. And the worst part, she had never intended to tell me the truth. I leaned back in the chair, running a shaky hand through my hair. The air in the room felt suffocating, the walls closing in. This was worse than I had imagined. Not only had she been unfaithful, She had been strategic about it. She had studied me, predicted my reactions, counted on me being too broken to look for answers. She thought I would roll over and accept it. She thought I would not fight. But she was wrong. For the first time since she left, the fog in my head began to clear. I was not some helpless victim in all of this. I was not the fool she had painted me to be in her messages. I was a man who had been lied to, manipulated, and discarded like I was nothing. And I was not going to let that slide. I did not know what my next move was, but one thing was certain. This was not over, not by a long shot. I sat there in that small, suffocating office for what felt like hours, reading through every message, every carefully constructed lie Colette had left behind. My hand shook as I scrolled, my breath coming out in short, uneven bursts. The emails were not just casual exchanges between two people having an affair. They were blueprints for a life I was not meant to be part of. She had orchestrated everything. The lease for an apartment in her name only, a job application sent months before she even started pulling away from me, and then the worst part, the confirmation. A contract signed at a company I had never heard her mention before. A new job, a new home, a new man. She had built an exit plan behind my back while still lying beside me every night. The messages painted a picture of a woman I did not recognize. Not the woman I married, not the woman I loved. This version of Colette was ruthless, calculated. She had no remorse, no hesitation. There was never a moment where she second-guessed betraying me. Eli will be fine. He always lands on his feet. That single line played over and over in my head, louder than anything else. That is how she saw me, like I was some stray dog she could dump at the side of the road, convinced I would somehow survive. Like I was not even worth the decency of a real goodbye. I forced myself to close the laptop, my fingers trembling as I pushed it away. I needed air. I needed to get out of that house before I tore it apart, piece by piece. I stormed out, barely remembering to grab my keys, and got into my car. My hands gripped the wheel so tightly my knuckles turned white. My mind raced with possibilities. Should I confront her? Should I show up at whatever new life she had built for herself and demand an explanation? Would she even care? Probably not, because she had made up her mind long before I ever had a chance to fight for us. I drove without a destination, the streets passing in a blur. My body was on autopilot, but my mind was locked on one single, haunting question. Who was the other man? There were two names in the emails, two different people she had been in contact with, but which one was him? Which one was the one she left me for? I pulled into an empty parking lot and leaned forward, gripping my head. The weight of it all was crushing me. The woman I had built my life around was not real. The love I thought we had was an illusion, and the future I had been planning gone, just gone. I thought about calling her. Not to beg her to come back, not anymore, but to demand the truth. To hear it from her lips instead of reading it like some detective piecing together a crime scene. But then I realized something. She did not deserve to know how much this was destroying me. She did not deserve to hear the anger, the betrayal, the devastation in my voice, because that would mean she still had power over me. And if there was one thing I knew for sure, it was that I was not going to be the broken man she expected me to be. I sat back, exhaling slowly. No, I would not call her. I would not give her that satisfaction. Instead, I was going to do what she never expected. I was going to move forward, but not before I found out the whole truth, because I was not done yet. For the first time since she left, I was not sad. I was not broken. I was not sitting in my house, wondering what I did wrong. No, that part of me had been buried beneath the weight of something much stronger. Clarity. Colette thought she had outplayed me, thought I would be too heartbroken, too stunned to go looking for the truth. And for a while she was right. But now that the fog had cleared, now that I knew she had been planning this for months, I was not about to just let it go. I was not going to fight for her, was not going to beg for an explanation, but I was going to know everything. I sat in my car, parked in a near-empty lot behind a grocery store, scrolling through her emails again. Now that my hands were not shaking with rage, I could actually focus. I combed through every message, reading between the lines, looking for anything she had left behind. A pattern. A mistake. A breadcrumb trail leading me to whoever had been waiting for her. Then I found it. A hotel reservation. Not from yesterday, not from last week, but 4 months ago. A 2-night stay booked under his name but paid for with her card. The name was not one I recognized. It was not anyone in our circle of friends, was not someone she had ever mentioned, but it was him. I knew it was. I clenched my jaw, my grip on the phone tightening. She had been so careful, so calculated, but she had made one critical mistake. She assumed I would not go looking. She underestimated me. I copied the name, pasting it into a search bar, and just like that, there he was. His face, his job, his whole life right in front of me. A LinkedIn profile, a company bio. A man who had no business being in mine and Colette's life until she let him in. I felt something dark curl in my stomach as I clicked through his photos. He was not better than me. He was not smarter. He was not more successful. Hell, he was not even good-looking. He was just there. A man who happened to cross paths with my wife and saw an opportunity, and she took it. I sat back, running a hand over my face. So this was it. The man she left me for. The man she had been sneaking around with while coming home to our bed. Looking me in the eye and pretending she loved me. I let out a slow breath, pushing the phone away. I could confront him, show up at his work, let him know I knew. But what was the point? Colette was gone. She had chosen him, and I was not going to waste another second of my life trying to understand why. No, I had something else in mind. I was going to let her regret it, because one day she would. A week passed then too. The silence was the worst part. It was not just about Colette being gone. It was the realization that she had left without a single moment of hesitation. No calls, no messages, no accidental late-night text full of regret. It was like I had been erased. Like 7 years of marriage had been a chapter in her book that she had ripped out and burned without a second glance. But the thing about silence, it gives you time to think. And I had done a lot of thinking. I had gone through every emotion. Shock, heartbreak, confusion, anger. But now I was something else entirely. I was watching, not in an obsessive way, not like some jilted ex stalking her every move. No, I was patient, observant, because Colette might have rewritten her life, but she had forgotten one crucial detail. She did not exist in a vacuum. She had left a trail and I was following it. First, it was little things. A mutual friend mentioning that she had been seen at a bar near her new place. A coworker of hers slipping up and revealing that she had moved in with him. So fast? Really? And then finally, something made my stomach twist in the most unexpected way. She was not happy. People talk. They always do. And what I was hearing was not the fairy tale she had probably envisioned when she packed that suitcase and walked out of our home. She looks exhausted. They fight a lot. She told someone she thought it would feel different. Different? I almost laughed when I heard that. She had traded in something stable, something real, for an idea. A fantasy of excitement, of a fresh start, of something new. But new does not mean better. New does not mean right. And maybe, just maybe, she was starting to realize that. I let that thought simmer in the back of my mind as I went about my days. I was not going to reach out to her. I was not going to show up at her doorstep demanding answers. No, I was going to do something much better. I was going to thrive. Because that is the thing about people like Colette. They always assume they are the ones moving forward while you are stuck in the past. They think they are winning the breakup. But what happens when they look back and see that you are not just surviving, you are living? That you are happier than they are? That is the kind of regret that keeps people up at night. And I was going to let her feel every second of it. Months passed, and with each one, the weight of Colette's departure became lighter. At first, it had felt like I was wading through quicksand, sinking under the crushing weight of her absence. But as time moved on, something inside me shifted. The pain dulled, the anger simmered into something cold and steady, and for the first time in years, I started to feel free. It was not an overnight transformation. There were still nights where I stared at the ceiling, wondering if I had imagined the entire marriage. Still mornings when I expected to hear her in the kitchen, only to be met with silence. But eventually those moments became rare and then non-existent. And that is when she reached out. It was subtle at first. A random, unexpected notification. Her name popping up on my phone in a way that made my stomach clench. Not a message, not a call, just a liked photo. Something old, buried deep in my profile. I ignored it. Then another. A comment under a post I had barely paid attention to. Something vague and meaningless. Wow, I remember this day. Ignored again. Then the inevitable, "Hey, how have you been?" I stared at the message for a long time, not because I did not know what to say, but because I knew exactly what this was. She was not reaching out because she missed me. She was not checking in out of guilt or kindness. No, this was something else, regret. I left her message on read for a full day before responding. "I have been good. Hope you are well." Short, distant, just enough to make her wonder. And just like that, the floodgates opened. She started messaging more often, nothing too forward, nothing too obvious, but I could see it. The way she lingered in conversations, asking about little things she should not care about. The way she kept bringing up us, subtly, like testing the waters. It was almost sad. She had built a new life, a new relationship. She had made her choice, and now she was looking back. I did not need to ask why. I already knew. Her new life was not what she thought it would be. The thrill had worn off, the newness had faded, and now she was left with the consequences. And I was doing better than ever. I had rebuilt. I had moved forward. And that was the thing she had not expected. She had thought I would stay broken, stay lost in the wreckage of what she left behind. She was wrong. And now she was the one looking back, wondering if she had made a mistake. But I already knew the answer. She had. Colette's messages kept coming, at first just casual check-ins, the kind of meaningless small talk that people use when they do not know how to say what they really mean. Then late-night messages. The ones she probably sent after staring at her ceiling, just like I used to. The ones that lingered with unspoken regret. I never answered those because by then I no longer cared. The moment I realized I was free was a quiet one. I was sitting outside at a cafe, the sun warming my face, my fingers absent-mindedly scrolling through my phone. I saw her latest message, another weak attempt at conversation, and for the first time since she walked out, I felt nothing. No anger, no sadness, no desire to respond. That is when I knew she was not part of my life anymore. Not really. I had spent months piecing myself back together, building a life that had nothing to do with her. I had traveled. I had gone out with friends. I had rediscovered things I loved doing before my world had revolved around making her happy. And somewhere in the middle of all that, I had healed. I was not just surviving, I was thriving. And her? She was stuck looking back. It was poetic in a way. She had walked away thinking the grass was greener, convinced she had it all figured out, but life does not work like that. She had left me, thinking she was upgrading, only to find out she had lost something real. And me, I had gained something better than anything she could have ever given me, myself. That night, I opened our last conversation and stared at her messages. Then, with a small, satisfied smile, I deleted them all. No goodbye, no closure, because I did not need it. And just like that, Colette became exactly what she deserved to be. A memory.